Welcome to the John Long Silver Rails channel. What I have here is an original Lionel ZW Transformer. It has the original selenium rectifier whistle controllers and the original circuit breaker. I'm going to run a train by here to show you what happens when I attempt to blow the whistle. Now the train's coming. I'm pushing the whistle button. You can barely hear the whistle. Turn it way down. Time to stop it. Now if I put the train in neutral, to attempt to do today, what I want to attempt to do today is upgrade a non-upgraded ZW transformer with the whistle diodes instead of the selenium rectifier to blow the whistles. Now this is the transformer. I removed it from the other layout. It's on my workbench. These 4 screws right here hold the top on. So the first step is to remove these 4 screws. One to go. The top should lift straight up, just like that. Up and away. Now we see the innards. Right here, that is the selenium rectifier. That's going to be replaced by a whistle diode. Now the other selenium rectifier for the other controller is on the back side. So one's on the front, one's on the back. While we have the top off, let us take a look at the carbon rollers. This is a carbon roller. It looks like it's okay. This carbon roller is starting to wear down. See how close the frame is to this work right here? So that one pretty soon should be replaced. So whenever you get the top off of your ZW, check your carbon rollers. First step is to get these wires out of the way a little bit. Now this wire here is soldered on to the rectifier, the selenium rectifier, and that is held on with an old Fonstock clip. So that has to be pried off somehow with a smaller screwdriver than the one I grabbed, I suppose. Now we've got the Fonstock clip exposed. At this point you start wondering, what am I doing? Am I ever going to get this thing back together? And the answer is, who knows? We hope. The real question is, am I ever going to get it apart? I'm having trouble prying that Fonstock clip out of there. This plastic is really Bakelite and it's really brittle, so you got to be careful working around it. Maybe the dental pick is the way to go. Alright, it popped off. Hallelujah. So here's this fawn stock clip. And here's the selenium rectifier right here, which I'm going to have to pull out of there with the plier, the needle nose, because I can't reach it with my fingers. And on the back, you see the back side of the thing fell down in there. That's what it looks like. And down in here is the remnant that has to come out. I may have to turn the transformer over to shake that out. We'll see. Now right here's a screw, and there's another one back there. And they should allow me to lift this up so I can get that back part of the rectifier out of there. So I carefully remove these screws. Can't see what I'm doing. Boy, it doesn't want to come out. There it is. Now there's one more screw that has to be removed. It's the one on this side. This time the screwdriver magnet is holding it out for me. So this is loose now, which means I should be able to get that part out that falls down in there. There's the part that we had to get out of there. It went in there like this with a fawn stock clip holding it. Now this is a good rectifier if I wanted to reuse it in some other transformer, but I don't know why I would do that. Okay, in this bag we have the diodes. You can get these online off of eBay. There's two of them in this bag right here. And of course, the bag's hard to open too. But there it is. That's all there is. This is the rectifier. We put this together in there with this behind it. Now I'm not sure how I'm going to get my fingers in there to do that, but that's what I have to do. Well, that's tight. We got it on. Now underneath this, and I'm not going to be able to show it to you, I'm afraid, is insulator. I can see it's in place right there where that is. it's important to keep that insulator in place. It looks to me like it's just fine where it's positioned. So now we have to wiggle all this back down if we can. I'm looking for my better screwdriver. Here it is. I'm going to put this magnet on here to enhance the magnetic power of this screwdriver, because I want this screw, guess what, this is not a Phillips head situation here, so we'll use this one. We want that screw to stay stuck on here while we reach down, so we don't drop it down in there again like we did before. Set that down over the screw hole right there. Have to work the screw past all the wires. Believe me, you don't want to do several of these a day probably. And if you can buy one already done, I think you're ahead of the game, because it's not easy. It's fiddle work. It's fiddle work like rebuilding a Lionel E unit. As I got older, it got harder to do that too. Now I gotta get the magnet out of there. Alright. I should have used my screw holders, what I should have done. As you can see, it's easy to do this theoretically, but it's not easy when you come down to the practical application of doing it, because of all the wires and all the tight quarters and everything that it involves. Alright, that's down. While I tighten it, I want to see if I get the other screw to go in. Again, we got wires in the way. This wire especially. There, I think I can get past it now. There it is. Next, we have to remove the wire from the fawn stock clip. Oh, this is some tough old solder on here. I'm hoping eventually the solder will melt, but it sure, there it goes. So there's our fawn stock clip. Of course, this wire has to go be soldered onto there. My flux, and I couldn't solder this because it's not copper. I think it's aluminum. So I made another wire. This one I hope I can solder. So I removed that wire, and I'm going to try to put this wire. Of course, I need more hands than I have. I might have to open up the hole for that socket a little bit. So this wire is going to go in here. Like that, and soldered in place. Then I'm going to try to fasten the other end to the diode. I don't know when Lionel made this particular transformer. I never noticed aluminum wire in a transformer like this before. Maybe it was a Korean War thing. I'm just guessing. I have no idea. Maybe somebody out there knows, but I don't. But I don't like aluminum wire. I don't have any experience soldering it, and so forth and so on. I've done a lot of soldering on trains, but I've always used copper as far as I can recall. I think we've got this end on good. Now we need to get the other end on. I tinned it a little bit with solder, so I'm hoping it'll go smooth. And I didn't tighten the nut tight enough that it holds the diode on, so I had to redo that off camera. So folks, do yourself a favor, get it tight, do it right the first time. Don't do it the old man's way, but do it the young man's way. I think one of the rules of thumb, particularly when I work on an automobile, is I have to do it 5 times before I finally get it right. Well, that's good. It's not going anywhere. So we finally did it. And I could rejoice except for one fact, and that's that there's another side that has to be done. I think I'll do the other side off camera. The thing I want to leave you with is that this, and I couldn't show it very well, is a piece of paper insulation, and it's critical to get that back in place. So be careful you do that. Under here, very difficult to see, we have a contact strip, and then on top of that we have 2 insulators. This one, these fingers go down. This one that goes on top, the mounting screw for the cover plate goes through there. So it's very important when you install these whistle diodes that you get the insulators back in their proper place. Well, it's the next day. I ran into some trouble doing that diode upgrade on the other side of the ZW because the little insulator papers came loose, and I had a very hard time getting them back in. But I finally managed to do that. Now here's the transformer back at the control panel. This is the right throttle that operates this train set over here. This is the one we saw operating the other day, which showed the before. So it works, of course it works good in neutral. Now let's see how it does when the train's running. This is with a new diode now. much used and abused repair manual for my Lionel trains. It's mostly for the post-war trains. I'm not sure there's much of anything for the pre-war trains in the book, but this is a page relating to the inner parts of the ZW. Now, this screw, which held the diode bracket on, went through this insulated paper thing here, and under this paper is this paper. They're not actually paper, but there's some kind of insulated fiber material. And under this one is the control strip to which the wire is attached, the other end of which went to the diode. Now this prong and this prong, this one and this one, are folded down like at 90 degrees to go over the control rod, which you can see when you take your transformer apart. This part here, which sits on top of this, stays straight out. So this is the lowest part. Then you have the piece of paper, the fiber paper. Then you have the second fiber paper. And then on top of that is the bracket that holds the diode down. And the screw goes through the bracket, then through the fiber paper. This is just held in place. It's not got a screw going through it or anything. And this is just held in place by the pressure of everything when you tighten down these screws. There's a screw here, and there'll be a screw over here when you put it all back together. Well, this is what I'll say about this project. It's easy in theory, it's very hard in practice. If those insulation papers get loose or out of position, because of the limited access you have, it's very difficult to get them back in. And if one of those bent down fiber pieces, the one that's bent down at 90 degrees, breaks off, well, you're going to have to get another insulation fiber piece, or you're going to have to tape that one on with some kind of masking tape. So if you feel like you really want to try something that's fiddly intensive, probably for me it's almost as hard as rebuilding an E unit, have at it.